Hi everybody, this is part one of a little series that I'm going to do on the valuation of GameStop's stock. Ticker symbol GME. I've never done a video like this before. I'm usually the crazy guy who does the power packs, so bear with me, and if there's any mistakes or anything that you would like to add, then get in touch with me and I'll make sure to check into it. All we're going to look at today is the current valuation based on their balance sheet. So that will be their Bitcoin, cash, bonds, and then you've got the warrants as well. If there's enough interest in this video, part two, I'll look into the valuation, which is based on opinion and based on future revenue. It's based on new ideas. So let's get going. Here we go. Round one, we're going to look at the cash, the Bitcoin, and the net asset value. We've got the convertible bonds, the full conversion scenarios of those bonds, whether they get exercised into shares or not. Then we've got the warrants. We've got the bonds and the warrants combined. If that happens, that changes the scenario again. We've got the per share value based on all of these scenarios. All of this is just fact. There are no opinions based on this. To clarify and be transparent, I am a GameStop bull. I support the company a lot. I shop there, I do streams, and I really want the company to do well. But the point of this video is not to hype it up or give any kind of dates or anything like that. It's just showing what it's worth factually on paper, and then why that is not how you value a business. So there you go. We're not including any business value added on or multiples. Finally, we're going to show why this valuation is actually the floor of where it can be worth based on just simple numbers versus the ceiling, which we're not going to discuss today. All right, so the current balance sheet, we are going off quarter two results and quarter three is coming soon. So as of today, this is where these values sit. We've got the cash and the cash equivalents, which is $8.69 billion. Bitcoin, at the last time I checked, it's fluctuated a little bit, was around about 528 million when I was recording this video. In terms of the ups and downs of Bitcoin, I'll show in the second video why it doesn't actually matter if it goes to, say, 60,000 or 110,000 and so on. But right now, we'll just go off the value of Bitcoin. We've got the total liquid assets, which is the cash plus the Bitcoin, which is 9.22 billion. Then we've got the long-term debt. So bonds count as debt. If they convert, that debt will be removed. But right now, GameStop is sitting on 4.16 billion of debt. The debt is owed to the bond holders, and we'll go into that a bit later. So therefore, we've got outstanding shares on the float of 447 million roughly. And so in total, you take away the debt from the cash and liquid assets. So we have the 9.22 billion here, and we take away the long term, which is the 4.1 billion, and that leaves you with 5 billion worth of net assets roughly. Value per share, floor price based solely on assets, $11.31. There is a price, and I have banded this price around myself, I'll admit, close to $20 per share, which is just cash and Bitcoin. But that doesn't take into account the bonds and the current state of the bonds, which are debt. So to remain neutral and factual, this is your current valuation per share, including the bond debt. Okay, so if the bonds convert into shares, the debt is gone. So that debt that we just discussed is wiped, and GameStop are left with no debt to the bond holders. The cash will then stay at 9.22 billion, and the debt will reduce to zero. We will introduce new shares into the float of 143 million because the bondholders have decided to convert their shares. Therefore, you end up with a total float of 591 million shares. Now your value per share with dilution has increased to 1560 per share. So the narrative that dilution is bad all the time is totally misunderstood and not true. If the dilution is accretive, and therefore you are diluting the float less than the cash you bring in, then the share price value actually goes up, not down. Okay, if the warrants are exercised, this is a separate issue to the bonds. but all based around the same strike, 32, 33, 34 of the bonds and the warrants. We're looking at about 59 million. There was about 44 million or something given to the shareholders, and the other 15 or so million was given to the bond holders, so they own warrants as well. If all of these warrants are exercised, another cash raise of $1.8 billion will come into the treasury. This is not a guarantee. People can sell their warrants. They might expire worthless. There's so many different options that would happen with these warrants, but we're just saying if 100% of the warrants are exercised, this is what GameStop would bring in. If that were to happen and all of the warrants were exercised, we would then increase the float to 506 million. So this is on the basis of the warrants being exercised and bringing in the 1.8 billion, but we haven't yet removed the debt from the bonds, if that makes sense. So this is if you just have the current number of shares plus the warrants being exercised, would take the float to 506 million. Nothing to do with the bonds, separate that. So the net assets of 6.9 billion is current liquid assets minus the debt plus the money that's brought in from the warrants. Okay? In that very rare scenario, if the warrants are exercised but the bonds are not, I'm just trying to run through everything, you have a share price value of 13.72 with the debt still there from the bonds. Okay, so if the bonds convert and the warrants exercise, this is the most likely scenario if the price does go above 32 within the time frame, is that the total shares would now become 650 million. Your liquid assets increase to 11.11 billion. That's assuming Bitcoin at the current price. If it drops a bit, if it goes up a bit, that changes. But as mentioned before, it is more negligible than you think if Bitcoin goes up or down based on their 4,710 that they own, how much it's worth at the moment, and then the fluctuations of, say, 10%, 15% of that 500 or so million. The debt then becomes zero because you've converted the bonds and the cash stays with GameStop. So we remove that $4-something billion of debt, and your value per share becomes $17.09 because of the dilution of the shares plus the cash that's been then kept. Debt is wiped, cash is 100% GameStop's, and the float has increased. So in summary, we've got right now today $11.31 worth of value per share just off cash and liquid assets minus the debt. If the bonds convert, that goes up to 15.60. If the warrants exercise on their own without the bonds, it goes up to 13.72. This is very rare, as mentioned before. And if the bonds and the warrants go together and exercise and convert, GameStop's core share value is $17.09. So what we haven't included, this is where I don't want to sound too bullish, because I am bullish. I just want to explain what I've not valued in on purpose to show a floor value. We haven't included any value whatsoever from the operating business. So this narrative that it's a dying brick and mortar store with no value whatsoever is gone. It's dead, because the latest filings from their earnings are showing revenue increasing now and profits are increasing. We've not shown any free cash flow at all or earnings, and that is usually a massive indicator of value in a business. We haven't showed any guesses, suggestions of what their future projects might include, or any mergers, acquisitions, or what they're going to do with their cash in terms of investments and things like that. No tech, no nothing. We haven't talked about anything like that. And my big boy, we haven't talked about the power packs. They're going to show up, I presume, on Q3 earnings. We're going to start to see some revenue from power packs coming in. And we're still only in the beta stage, or beta, as you Americans like to call it. We haven't shown any multiples on this whatsoever. Every single business in the stock market is applied a multiple, and the only businesses that tend to be based on cash only are those that are struggling or going bankrupt. We know that's not the case anymore. So to finish off of this part 1 video, why this is the absolute floor and not the ceiling. Okay, I don't want anybody to think I'm being bearish. I don't want anybody to think I'm being unfair towards the bullish side. I just wanted to be neutral, and then people can discuss, and then we can add more in part 2. So a company, as I said before, trading at near their net cash is rarely valued fairly. The only time there would be is if there's severe problems, which there is not anymore. GameStop is generating a positive free cash flow now. Not just the profits, but the revenue is increasing again. Completely debt-free, they will become completely debt-free in the scenario that they convert their bonds. I understand from a neutral standpoint, that's not where we're at the minute, but if the stock raises to 32 plus, 33, 34 plus again, it would be in the interests of the bondholders to convert if the share price approaches 35, 40 beyond that. Their cash plus their Bitcoin gives them obviously the huge acquisition and growth optionality. So he's sitting on that cash, Mr. Cohen, until the opportunities come along. You can be impatient, you can sit there and be very relaxed and wait, but the fact is there is $8 to $9 billion worth of cash and Bitcoin waiting to be deployed. It's not just sitting there to do nothing forever. The power packs, my baby, are representing obviously a massive growth in the revenue, and that's yet to be shown. The business itself is obviously worth more than zero, so we haven't discussed that at all. So part 2, if you're interested, I will form a bear, base and bull thesis based off these points above here. Mainly things like free cash flow, and less so about what I think is going to happen to the business. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm not really into the tinfoil and the guesswork. I just like to enjoy the company, support the company, do the streams. I shop there as much as I can, and everybody's free to do whatever they like, but I will stay as close to neutral as possible in terms of where I think the company will go based on fact. So opinions and things about what they might acquire or might invest in is great to talk about with friends and things like that, but I don't think it's the basis for this kind of video. So the next part, if you're keen and you like this video, we'll discuss where I think it should be based with a fair value given the added multiples. Okay? So if you like this, give me a like, subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff, and we've also got the Power Pack streams, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, thank you very much. Power to the players.